Hey guys, welcome back to Open It and Play. This is Mike, and today we're going to be looking at the Marvel Legends Fantastic Four First Steps. This is the MCU version of the Human Torch, and we're going to contrast it with a couple of other figures that I have. So I actually bought this figure because of the hands that it comes with. I want those hands for my other versions of the Human Torch, and you can actually see those hands on this guy over here. He's got the kind of open palm, flaming on hands that the Human Torch is often depicted using when he's like in flight poses. I just think that's a very expressive hand that was unfortunately not included in the old retro version. So for the retro version, that retro card version, that is what these two figures are, though this one has been heavily modified. But we'll talk about that a little bit more after we take a look at this guy. So let's look at his box first. You've got this art. I don't know if you guys saw the movie. I really liked the movie. I think it's the best thing that Marvel's done in quite a while. I liked how they did Galactus. I liked the 60s aesthetic. Just a lot of good things about that movie. I wish that the Eternals movie would have got the kind of similar treatment, but sadly it didn't happen with that franchise, or with that title. Anyways, we'll get him out of the box and take a look at the figure's aesthetic. The box does come with this little background art, which is sort of like the different characters' sort of symbols. So you got Stretchos here, the Thing, Invisible Woman, and a Human Torch. So it's kind of a cool little background. But a little bit small, so we won't be able to use it for a whole lot of things. But okay, and there you can see him in the package. And he comes with only these two alternate hands. So as usual, we'll look at the accessories first. I did open this guy, and I did actually try to make this video once before. But we're trying again to make a better version. I've got to remember to measure this guy. Okay, here is what those hands look like. Is that in focus? I think it is. Okay, so they do have these little flamey effects on them. And if we contrasted that with the retro card version back there, it came with kind of a more cartoony looking set of hands that had these fists with the painted on flame part. I think this isn't too bad, but in my opinion, this just looks more fire-like, a little more natural, just a more dynamic thing. So, okay, so those hands are the main reason I got this guy, and I'll be using those to make this retro card version have some flight poses similar to the comics. Okay, and let's get this guy out of his plastic case. And we're going to measure him right off the bat. So getting a measurement on this guy is always tricky. I'm sorry, I kind of suck at this part of my channel. Okay, he's gonna stand to the top of his flame about here. If we bring that over, we're looking at just over 6 1/4, if this will focus, just over 6 1/4 inches, like 6 and what is it, 5/16. I can't remember, but that sounds about right. Yeah, okay. Or it's almost just shy of 16 centimeters, you can see over here. Okay, so just a little bit off from 16 centimeters. Okay, for those of you in the world, which is the majority of everyone, using the metric scale. Okay, and if we look at Johnny, well, MCU Johnny, here he is in all his glory. He does have the details that are different than the comic book version of the character, because he does have this suit that he wears in the movie. And I guess you could kind of say this looks like it's modeled on his spacesuit design, if I remember right. And we'll see a few parts of that. He does have this little bracelet. They do have that in the movie so they can communicate with each other or call each other. Okay, and you can see he does have a lot of extra little plastic parts. These you can actually remove or twist around, and then the parts that are attached onto the fists here, the big part that's attached to his back, which doesn't come off, and then his flaming head, which is quite different from that version. If we contrast it with this has the painted plastic on the top. So I do like this other version's head better. Sorry. Whoa. Okay. And then you can see his eyes in there painted yellow. And then on his legs, he does have these separate big plastic parts that fit around his ankle. And they even add a little bit of fire for his boot. If we are to pose him, you can see that still kind of lines up on there. And then he does have these little tiny parts that are glued on top that are the different flamey color. So all in all, you're getting more flamey effects. This one, I'm sorry, I just remembered I took it off. So actually this belongs on this wrist to match like that one. Sorry, I took that off when I last reviewed it. And then since that was kind of a failure, I forgot to put it back on. But yeah, these effect pieces are nice because you can take most of them off, so you will be able to switch them to other figures. Okay, and let's look at this Human Torch's posability. We'll do that next. So, unlike many MCU figures, he does have the hinge and ball peg. He doesn't have the kind of ball joint or a dumbbell joint that some of the MCU figures get. The MCU figures often get special treatment, a lot of extra detail compared to the comic book ones. But in this case, he suffers from, running into the flame head onto the flame back effect. So he cannot look up at all. You can pose him like this, sort of. So if he's going to the side, it's a little bit better for flying. But straight on, he can't really look forward, which is kind of a bad deal with a flying character. I wish they would have sculpted this with more of a crevice in the middle so you could move that back some. But he does look down a little bit better, but overall his neck is pretty disappointing. Side to side, just a teeny tiny bit. Okay. And then moving on to his arms. His arms will go all the way around up that far. He does have bicep cut, and he's got double jointed pinless elbows that will get you all the way back. Starting to look a little bit funny there, but it's not too bad, all things considered. Might look a little better if there was a little bit of flame or something on here, just to make it look like the fire is blazing up. That would account for some of the awkward shape. But okay, and then his wrists do hinge. They're hinging really tight in this cold weather, but they do hinge and pivot. Okay, and then he does have that little bracelet. Let's take it off so you can see that teeny tiny bracelet here. If my phone will focus. Okay, you can see that one with the little communicator. And then his fist is like this. And let's quickly contrast that with that fist I showed you earlier. This is the MCU version. This is the retro card. Okay. And then if you wanted to see, this is an example too, we could contrast it with the hand from the Diamond Select figure, which I used to make this custom, like, old 1939 style Android Human Torch. But this one is holding the fireball or shooting the fireball. So the plastic effects go together pretty well. But Yeah, this one does have a different type of peg, so it fits very loosely, so you have to customize it a bit. Okay, back to the figure. I'll put on one of his alternate hands for the rest of the review. I can't forget this little teeny tiny wrist communicator. Sorry, kind of hard to see. Okay, so we put that down. You can see that kind of adds, like, if he's flying, it looks kind of cool, or if he's flying, well, if he's flying like this, maybe not exactly like that, but sorry, I can't get him posed well. Sort of like that. But okay. On to the rest of his articulation. His diaphragm joint goes back quite a ways and forward just a little bit, side to side quite well. He does have an old style torso twist, and then this belt, which I believe will come, it won't come off, it's glued here in the back. So just in case you're thinking of using that for something else, it is glued in the back, so you would have to probably cut it up a bit. His legs will only go up that far, but he does have the thigh cut and double jointed pinless knees that will get you about that far back. Does he have boot cut? He does not have boot cut. That's kind of sad, but he does have the cool flame effects that I talked about before. Ankles that hinge back that far forward, and of course they pivot, so you will be able to get him into some poses. You can see if you go really crazy, these flame effects start to look kind of weird, but those are just meant to kind of sit onto the side of his boot there to add more flamey goodness. Okay, and now let's contrast this guy with some of our others. I'm going to take a look at the RetroCard, straight up RetroCard version first. Sorry, he's far back there. So for this RetroCard version, this one is barely modified, but I did add some flame effects. I think this is the Tamashii Nations Fire Base, and you can kind of weave his legs in there to make him stick. It doesn't work perfect because he does tend to get loosey-goosey. This thing moves a little bit, but it holds okay. Okay, and you can see this one, he actually has gold painted eyes. Now, I don't like the gold painted eyes so much. I know what they're trying to do to catch the light from almost any angle, but I would prefer they were like yellow or maybe even white, like the cartoon. If I remember, they were white in the cartoon. I don't know, white or yellow, but okay. And then this flame effect on the top is what I really don't care about. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to put one of these heads from the movie version. Now, I think this looks pretty good too for a comic accurate Human Torch. And I do like that flaming head effect much better than this one with the paint. But if I was a masochist, I would take the time to cut this off and attach this one on there. But I don't think I'm going to do that much work for my RetroCard version. And you can see he does have the hand from this figure already added. The colors don't match exactly, but to me it looks like he's kind of flaming up his hand, and so it's brighter than the other part. So, and he's got one of the usual twirly swirly fire effects on here. And then you can see these arms on the RetroCard do have that painted part that's already like that. So, as for the legs, let's see if we can put on one of this MCU version's pieces onto here. It's actually going all the way around, so you would have to heat this up, pop off the foot, and then slip it on. But definitely it could be done. I don't know how well it fits because this calf gets pretty wide, before it goes up too far. But with just a little bit of modification, I think it would work well. So other ideas for your flame effects using those leg pieces, or heck, even the arm piece. Let's see if we can make this arm piece go on this arm in addition to this other fiery piece. Should be easy. As long as I can press this in. Okay, there you go. So you can just add a little bit more fire effect. If we twist it around, it does kind of interfere with this part. If I get it just right. There, if we blend them together, it's kind of like that. So yeah, you can heat up your flames to a little bit of a thicker degree, if that makes any sense. Okay, and that was this guy with the alternate hands on him. And you could also switch these feet, but if you switch the feet, it is going to have this little boot effect on the side. So that part I'm not a big fan of. You could probably sand that off to make it smooth, but it would also have a lot of scuffage from the sanding. So, okay, and we'll look at the one more Human Torch figure just for a moment, and that is this guy, my custom Android Human Torch. So Android Human Torch is from the first comic that's actually called Marvel Comics, and he is an android. I think his name is something Hammond, but I forgot his first name now. But I've already added those different hands to him and some extra flamey effects. And what I did was I took off this guy's kind of neck shawl flame effect, and I just reversed the direction. And if you wanted to make it look like he's sort of flaming up while he's taking off from the front, it looks good from some angles. It doesn't look perfect, and you do have to kind of try to work it into this neck joint to get it secure. But since this is a Diamond Select head, oh, come on. Sorry, it doesn't want to focus this time. Okay, since this is the Diamond Select head, and then I modified it with a marker, I did have to make this peg smaller. Okay, but yeah, you can play with it, try to make it work in various ways. So mine's getting a bit loose because it was sitting in an off position for too long, but kind of like that is how I was trying to pose him. Sorry, he's out of focus, but it depends on the angle. If you get it over here, it looks crazy, of course, but from the front, it's better hidden. Geez, I'm sorry, it's hard to focus. Okay, and then I just used a marker. I used acetone nail polish remover, take off these black lines, and then I put in some much heavier black lines with marker. That was a pretty fun modification in one of my first custom figures. You can barely call it a custom, it's just modified a little bit. And then this base is Pokemon pen holder base that I got here in Japan. And then I just don't use it for a pen, I just stick this guy's leg down in there, and it works pretty well for kind of a taking off base. So, okay, I don't know if you guys are fans of the Human Torch, but like I said, I do like this version. I do like Johnny Storm too, but this movie version, well, he's just going to be used for parts for me. So, but let me know what you guys think of Human Torch in the comments, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thank you for joining me for this look at the various Human Torch figures. Okay, that's it. Bye for now, guys.